Hey, big shout out to the group from Prep to Finish Spray Shop up here in Jericho, Vermont on what's turned out to be a very cold and blustery day. And you're here with Todd and Scott, and we decided that today, before we head off to JLC Live, would be a good day to feature the new Graco handhelds. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Scott, and he's going to take you A through Z on the new handhelds by Graco. Greetings, Scott.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. First off, I want to thank all of our group members for making the Sprayer Shop Talk group the best group on Facebook. So let's keep up the good stuff there. These handheld units from Graco are new for 2017, and you probably all remember that they've been around in the past, and we've been using them and testing them and working with the handheld series for probably 7 years now. So it's really interesting to see how they continue to evolve engineering-wise. And so we're going to take a quick look, just kind of probably a 10-minute tour of what's new with these things. First cool thing is it comes with a nice padded zippered Graco bag that has a pocket inside it that you can keep accessories in, and inner pocket. So that's good for sliding it into your truck and everything. You don't have the big bulky molded case like it used to have. This line will continue to come in both corded and cordless versions. There's a total of 3 of these. We have 2 of them here, and the cordless and the corded are very similar in terms of their features and their function. You'll notice that these have 2 different names. The version of the corded that we have is called the Graco Ultra. The battery one that we have is called the Ultimate. There's going to be 2 series of these. The Ultimate version, which is this one, will be what you can get at Sherwin-Williams stores, and the Ultra series will be ones that are available elsewhere. Otherwise, other than the name, the 3 sprayers that are in this line are going to be identical. So the first thing you'll notice that's really cool, one of the things that we were most excited about with these, is that they are capable of operating with the fine finish low pressure tips that we've been talking about in the group. So that's the same exact FFLP tip that you would have on your airless, and that was a feature that wasn't possible in the past. The handheld tips were kind of exclusive to that line, so you didn't have the ability to interchange them. So that's one really cool feature. So it's Rack X, low pressure tip, fine finish, reversible. So that's a big upgrade. The second thing that you're going to notice is that the cup is different than it has been in the past. These have what's called a flex liner, and these cups can unscrew from the unit. You've got a flexible liner inside of a molded plastic cup housing, so it's nice and lightweight. What's cool there is that you can see inside the cup. It's definitely makes things easier when you can see what's going on. And then the top of it comes off like this, and you'll notice that there's no down tube. The previous versions had a plastic down tube that you had to orient inside the cup, and it eventually turned into a flexible down tube. Now there's no down tube. You just have a filter that's going to fit up here at the inlet, and that filter is what is doing the work in the transfer of paint out of the cup. So that's what that is going to look like. So both of the units are going to be equipped in that same way. So that's basically the features between these 2 units up to this point are the same. And where things are going to change a little bit on this one is at the battery. Boy, that stuff is slippery. Graco has upgraded to a DeWalt battery. It's a 20 volt XR. So if you have DeWalt drills and stuff like that, you'll be set with batteries because they'll be interchangeable. The unit itself comes with 2 batteries and a charger. So you got a good kit, 20 volt. It's a nice lightweight, powerful battery. I'll let Todd kind of just zoom in so you can see what's what before we get dirty here. And as we go, if you guys have questions, feel free to type them right in. Okay, so at the cup, we're going to run you through the prime sequence now. As far as how you would set up, we have already strained and filled the cup. Now you see that the cup looks blue. It's actually a see-through cup that is full of blue paint that happens to look just like Graco blue. So it's not like a fancy Graco blue cup. It's just full of paint that's that color. So the flex liner, though, comes into play in the priming sequence. At the top of the cup, right here, I'll let Todd zoom in to that, you have what is called the vacuum valve. And that's just a simple valve with a very small reservoir. On a clean cup, it's going to look like that. And you'll see that there is a tiny little pinhole inside of that reservoir. And that's not a very deep reservoir, but that is what is going to prime the unit. So it's no longer a guessing game because you literally can feel in your hand what's going on. So I'll let Todd give you one more look inside the reservoir there, and then we'll show how it works. Okay, so to prime the unit, what you do is you squeeze the bladder very lightly, and I'll have Todd come over the top so that you can see what's happening. Inside of that reservoir, we are releasing any air that's in the cup. You could just hear it stop, and then a small amount of liquid is going to come up through. You're going to hold that liner and close that lid. Switch the dial to the prime position, and I'll let you see the flex liner is a little bit collapsed now because it's holding the shape of the liquid that's in it, and there's no air inside. Now, just to be clear about this flex liner, this is a fairly new concept to a lot of us. Just to be really clear, you don't have to be squeezing that in order to use this sprayer. That's not part of the program. It's not like a bladder that has to be engaged in order for this to work. It is really the chief function of it is to assist you in the priming process, which I think is a really cool thing because as the user, you can feel what's happening and you can see what's happening, and you can also hear it when you squeeze the air out of that liner. So you've got 3 senses telling you that it's ready. So at that point, I'm going to move over to our demo sheet over here. With the unit still in prime mode, we're going to point it in a safe direction. So I'm going to point it in a safe direction and engage the trigger in prime mode for a few seconds, between 3 and 10 seconds. So now you go back to your switch. You can see how it's labeled. It shows you with a diagram which way is which. Up and down is prime, and horizontal is going to be spray. So we're going to switch over to the spray mode. And we're going to go and shoot a test pattern. I'm going to put my mask on real quick. We're running a 312 FFLP tip, guys. So there's my pattern, and one thing that I didn't mention earlier, your speed control is located at the back of the unit. That's your motor speed. And we're turned all the way up. It's a 1 through 10, and we're on 10.
I'm just going to come around and show you the pattern. That was at a 10. Nice and even, great fan. Scott's going to hit it now with the speed set at 7 to show you its consistency at a lower speed.
So you can see in the pattern, sometimes turning down is a good way to work your way back up to exactly where you want to be. Based on that patterning, I'm going to turn over to an actual door surface now vertically, and I'm going to start it at 7 and see what we can get vertically out of this thing. Now I'll go up to 10. So I'll have Todd walk you around the door real quick, and then I'll show you what's happening at the cup.
I'm reading all your comments coming in, guys, and I appreciate them, and you're right. It is a neat unit. We're really impressed with what we've seen so far as well. Somebody asked, Brett, you asked what paint we use. That's actually a deep-bodied duration interior latex. We wanted to see how much we could put the machine through and see if it would spray it, and we didn't thin it or anything. We just went after it. Worked really great. And James Courier says you're using a fine tip. Yeah, we're using the new low pressure fine finish rack tip, size 312 on that. I know, Joaquin, we should always do the sides first. You're right on that. But this is a demo and this door stays here. Thank you. All right, Scott's going to talk to you now about the flex liner and what has happened.
Okay, the flex liner, you'll notice it's almost like the case of the great disappearing cup. You may have been able to pick it up in the video as Todd was shooting it, but as it is drawing the fluid out of the flex liner, it shrinks. And so during that little round of spraying right there, you could hear probably some fluctuation in the sound of the motor that you might think from past experience could be pulsating in the pattern. And that's actually not what it is. I think that's the way that the motor of the unit and the battery of the unit adjust to what's going on with the bladder. So if we hit the angle of that bladder just right, you can just about see through it. There is only paint left in that thing where it's stuck to itself as it emptied.
Looks like a stained glass window.
So that's a fully shrunken flex liner at the end of a round. So you'll notice that we did our test patterns and we did the two sides of the door with a pretty full flex liner. So now that's where the functionality of these handhelds comes into play. Like, how do you get the most out of them? And one thing that we recommend as guys who like to use them on certain types of projects, mostly for convenience, is that you set yourself up well. And the way that we do that is to have a second cup that's ready to go, that's already been prepped and is full, all set to go. Now, this is an identical cup to what's on the gun, but it's got a top piece that seals it for you, and you can actually carry it with that. So if you got these things,
Kind of resembles a plug, doesn't it?
it is a large plug slash handle that you can lock onto the top basically of your spare cup. Comes off really easy, and you can see right down into the full flex liner. So that's one way that you can set yourself up in advance. So you don't have to take this setup off and figure out right now how to deal with that collapsed flex liner. You can set that aside in a bucket and deal with that at your cleanup at the end of the session. And you know, if you got two of these things full, or three or four or whatever, each one of them's about a quart. So that's how you extend the functionality of what's essentially a cup, bottom cup feeding machine. But this is not at all to be confused with HVLP as a bottom cup type of machine. This is very much an airless type of sprayer. And what you've got basically when you run one of these is you got 2,000 PSI in your hand and a strong battery.
I'm going to respond to a comment by Lewis a minute ago that it looks quicker than HVLP, and we would agree with you. It is much quicker. The fact that it can spray it up to 2,000 PSI makes it like having your airless or air assisted in your hand as opposed to an HVLP. And Gilbert Smith asked if one coat is going to be sufficient. I'm picky. We are too, Gilbert. Yeah, that'd be a case where we would go over to the door and do an inspection on it quick with a light. If we saw any areas we didn't like, we would get it wet on wet with the handheld, especially since we had another cup all set up and ready to go, and we could just plug that in and continue spraying.
So just by way of quick inspection, I'll put an LED on this. I think for a lot of people this would pass as one coat coverage. I agree with Gilbert. I'm more the type for durability. I'm probably going to scuff this and shoot it again. But the reason that I'm willing to do that is because I just sprayed all the way around this door in like a minute. And compared to brushing, you know, take a good painter 20-30 minutes with a brush to get anywhere close to this kind of coverage. And like I said, it's not perfect yet, but it's certainly very good for about a minute's worth of work. And you know, I think that's the most important thing that we all need to think about when we look at a tool like this that's in the kind of $300 to $500 price range, that it's not going to be the only sprayer that you own, and it might not be your favorite sprayer of all your sprayers. But what handheld sprayers really are is they are convenience tools. These tools are intended for those situations like a door or two or some lattice work or an exterior porch rail system, deck rail, that kind of thing, that you don't want to spend hours brushing, but at the same time you don't want to haul out an airless, you know, a skid or a big machine to do less than a gallon's worth of work. So it's a small quantity solution, and it's really all about convenience. And so the way I look at these things is it probably won't last forever. It's a pretty hardcore technology to have that much power, 2,000 PSI running on 20 volts, that's that portable. So, you know, I think we all have to understand that eventually it will wear out. It won't last forever, but during the years that you are using it, it's going to make you money. And, you know, that's really what it's all about. So, back to the setup for a second. We think even far enough ahead that we'll have one of these set with water, an extra cup that's just got water in it, so that at the end of a session, all I've got to do, I'll show you how this cup releases off. You'll see that the filter has some paint on it, but I can quickly kind of dunk that, clean it up, toothbrush it off or whatever, and put my clean water cup right on the unit, reverse the tip, blow it out, give it a good rinse with a cup full, and then a quick clean. That's one thing that I do like about these, is that the cleanup can be pretty quick and easy, and especially now that you don't have to clean out the inside of a down tube, and the cup cleaning situation is easier. So one of the really cool things that we have found so far, believe it or not, these flex liners, as collapsed and appearing to be full of paint, this liner will actually clean up as good as new with a simple rinse in a bucket. And this is one that's been cleaned a couple of times, so the paint doesn't stick to it, cleans out really good. Definitely easier than sticking your hand down inside a plastic cup.
Almost looks like a feller could pour a cold drink in there.
Feller probably could. So that's the basic kind of rundown on what's new with the handhelds. And, you know, again, these things are what they are. They're convenient. They're reasonably priced. It's hard to find anything that sprays paint in the $500 and under category that's any good. And, you know, for certain types of tasks that you don't want to brush or you don't want to set up a big machine for, you can get good results with a little rig like this. So if anybody has any questions that we haven't addressed already, just go ahead and type them in, and we'll keep this video in the spray group, you know, till it dies out and we do another one. So we'll respond to your comments and everything. And again, if you're going to be in the Providence, Rhode Island area in the next few days, we'll be down there. So look us up at JLC Live, and we'd love to meet up with anybody who's around.
All right, cheers from prep to finish.